everybody, how is it going? It's the Fuzz, and the moment we've all been waiting for is here. Spoiler time! So, 6 of us are getting one aspect each. I've got Corruption, Bolter has Rage, Johto has Dominion, I think, Peacekeeper has Wisdom, and I don't know about Order and Nature. Forest Bear Studios will probably do Forests, Nature stuff, and I don't know what's going to do Order. Laurential maybe? Who knows? Anywho, a big surprise, you probably already know this, because you've probably seen Johto's or Peacekeeper's stream by the time you watch this. We have some multicolored cards. Anyways, we're going to start with those, because why not? And then we're going to move on to the actual Corruption cards. And let me tell you, we got some good stuff there. We got a couple demons, couple shamans, couple totems. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. Not everything I wanted, but anyways, starting off with Tren, the Birchwood Guardian. I'm gonna make him a little bit bigger. There we go. Tren, the Birchwood Guardian. It's a nature order card. Awesome. He even has a yellow beard, right? 3 mana, 3 aspect, 4/5 unstoppable. It's an unstoppable zombie giant, guys. Watch out. For 3 mana, give him a might emblem. That's cool. And here's the interesting part. Spells with mana cost equal to the number of might emblems on him cannot be played by either player, right? Alright. So we just look at the first half of the card. It's a big beat stick that can get really big. It's like a Hydra that isn't awful. Well, you know, it's 3 mana. That's a big difference. And later on, you could easily play him, put a bunch of counters on him, and it's unstoppable. You know, if you're going to have a 1-speed creature that's really big, you could at least give it unstoppable. So, yeah, that's pretty nice. The other effect... Okay, so what kind of spells might you want to stop your opponent from playing? Oh my god, because it's as if Spell Warden wasn't doing this already, right? Whatever. So, Cataclysm, well, you need 5 emblems. That's a bit tough. Assassinate, that's not going to matter to him. Devious Plot, I don't know. I don't even know if Devious Plot will be played, but hey, with cards like this, you never know. So, I think the other effect is cool. Mostly, if you run up against something like Angels, you could keep him at 2 to stop Word of Grace from being played. Or you could go to 3 to stop Ray of Righteousness from being played. Or go to 4 and stop Landslide. But then he's going to get hit by Outbreak. Whoops. Or you could just give him 1 and stop Outbreak from hitting him. So, I think the card is pretty cool. It's a plant. You can get him with Grand Reunion. That's nice. I wonder if that's going to become a thing. Nature Order giant-ass creatures coming out of Grand Reunion. We'll have to see. At a glance, Order and Nature don't exactly go well together to want a creature like this. Kayano can get him out with a counter and stops Outbreaks immediately. That could be something. Yeah. I think the card is pretty cool. At the moment, I'm not sure how to rate it, but I think it's like a consideration at least if you're looking for a giant beatstick. As for Trials... I mean, if you're going Nature and Order, this is probably really good, because it's a creature that can continue to grow and be a threat. So, yeah, I think it's fine. Mr. Birch, welcome aboard. Moving on. Solutio. What? Is that how you say it? Whatever. The dude with the halo, the Awbringer. It's an angel. Oh, yeah. 4 mana, 2 aspect, 3/3 flying, 3 speed. The enemy hero can't use skills. So, we had this issue with Lightning Bolt, so it was stopping Divine Offering. That's been fixed, so it's no longer stopping Divine Offering, but it's stopping their hero powers. Now, the big question is this. Does this make Angels better or worse? Well, let's see. The hero power that Angels have does not care about aspect. It just says, look at the top 4 cards, put an Angel on the board. So if you're playing mono order, you wouldn't care. However, you don't just want to have to play this off the hero power. I think if Angels want to include this card, they will have to play blue. But that's not so bad, because more Angels is good. So how does this guy compare to that awful 4-mana 4/4 flyer with no effect, the Protector of the Innocent? Is it better? It's got 1 more speed. That matters. The effect is useful. I'd say, yeah, it's probably a better card than Guardian. So now, if Angels go white-blue, are they going to play all the Angels? All 16 of them? Assuming that there aren't more in order, which there could be. I think whether or not this card gets played depends very heavily on what the other Angels are, if any. Whether there's any in Wisdom, and whether there's any in Order, and how good they are. If they are better than him, her, I actually don't know, then probably not. But if not, then yeah. I don't see why not. I mean, Protector of the Innocent was played in Angels for a time with Triangelica. This is better than Protector of the Innocent. You just have to be willing to go blue. The only real price of going blue is that you can't, like, Word of Grace becomes worse unless you start trying to run Horizons. But because you're not Horizoning to any removal, you probably don't want to do that. You want to populate the board with creatures that can contest the board and protect you while you set up your giant Angel Brigade, right? So I think the card's okay. Could have potential. Could be played, again, depending on what the other Angels look like. In Trials, it's probably okay. If you happen to be going white-blue, again, you might pick it up. It's okay. It's not, like, amazing or anything, but it's okay. Next up, Rygan, the Demon Catcher. Okay, so 3 mana, 2 aspect, Corruption Dominion, Legendary, 3/5 with 2 speed. Very interesting stat line. We've never seen one like that. So from just the stats, it's pretty good. 3/5 is really tough to beat. I mean, we're used to seeing like 2 3s. This is a 3/5. That's pretty good. Now the effect, this is where things start to go a little bit off. At the start of your turn, summon a demon with level equal to your level under the enemy hero's control. Whenever an enemy demon dies, you summon a copy of it under your control. What the fuck? Okay, so when you play him on curve, the next turn, you're gonna have to give your opponent a Bedeviled Fiend or a Harpy. I don't like the sound of that. But if you can kill that creature, like if you can assassinate it, you get it. So that means you're gonna want to give him a Harpy and then assassinate it, so that you get a Harpy. Okay. Now here's where it gets kind of silly. If you go to 3 aspect, you have to give your opponent a Succubus. Why ever would you want to do that, right? That's terrible. But if you can kill the Succubus, then you get the Succubus, and then the life gain just cancels out. But you have to use a card to kill Succubus. What? Okay, this card is really weird. What I want to know most of all is, if you Cataclysm, does Rygan recognize that the other demon died? Presumably yes, because when you Cataclysm a Sculptor and a board of creatures, the Sculptor still summons like zombies. So presumably Rygan will do the same thing. If you have Rygan and you give them like a Succubus and you cast Cataclysm, you then get a Succubus, I think. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention, look at the rarity. It is red. I don't know what that means. The other cards do not have red. I guess that means it's a new rarity above epic. Oh shit. I don't know. But that means it's going to be ridiculously expensive in terms of shrine, right? Yikes. I don't know. Anyways, back to the card. If you go 4 aspect, you have to give your opponent Bezarok. That is horrible. So, I honestly don't know what to think about this card. This stat line is amazing, but the effect is arguably bad? Right? I guess it's good on 2 aspects. If you can assassinate the harpy, it's okay. On 3, if you give them a succubus, that's not so good. On 4, if you give them a Bezorok, that's super bad. Okay, so does this have any synergy with demons? No, it is actually a counter to demons. If you play this guy against demons, the demon player is going to proceed to shit their pants, because if they lose any demons, you're going to get them for free. So in a way, this is a counter to demons, right? But are you really going to run it for that? I don't know. I guess if demons were like really dominant suddenly, then this guy's amazing against them. You play him in a Cataclysm and you like get all their shit, right? I think. I don't know anymore. This card is confusing. So we're gonna have to see how this works. It looks really funny, but I have no idea if it's any good. Well, this will need some practice in both Constructed and Trials. Moving on. Next up, Melinda, the Spirit Guy. It's a fairy. It's a flying fairy. It's a flying fairy that's a 2/3 with 3 speed. 4 mana, 2 aspect. When she enters the field, you may put a spirit from your hand on the field. When she leaves, that spirit goes back to your hand. If you think about what spirits we have in the game, you know, if we're just gonna only look at like wisdom and nature spirits, because you're not really gonna want to run a 3rd aspect just for this, unless you have a very compelling reason to, but at the moment I'm not really seeing it. From what I looked, really the only spirits that like do anything when they come into play are Dust Titan and Mesmerizing Spirit. Not Mesmerizing. Well, that's a good spirit too because it discards, but that's in corruption. Lightning Elemental. Both of those creatures shock something when they come in. And that's pretty cool, I guess. But then when she gets inevitably assassinated, they go back. Right? So, in order to really judge this card, we would kind of have to see the rest of nature and wisdom cards and see what other spirits we can get with her. Also, keep in mind, you can play her with Grand Reunion. That's cool. I like the idea. And the only other thing that I can think of is the interaction with Path of Transcendence. If you play Melinda, you get the spirit on the board, and you put it under Path, right? Then when Melinda leaves the board, the creature that's under Path is not going to leave. If it comes out from under Path, presumably it is going to leave. So if you put them both under Path, and then you bring them both out, and Melinda brings out a 2nd spirit, and then when she dies, do they both go back to your hand? I don't know exactly. It's interesting to find out. And Order seems like it might be an aspect to try with because of the giant tree guy. What's his name? Tren, the giant ass guardian, I think it was. Anyways, the card doesn't look that amazing. Again, with just the current spirits we have. But we may get some more good ones. And when we do, Melinda might actually be quite good. Cool card. In Trials, just kind of whatever. You may be able to get a spirit on the board with her, and if she doesn't get removed, like you get a Dust Titan or something, it's pretty good. But a lot of the time, it's not going to be the case. But I mean, even if the creature gets bounced back, it's not that big of a deal. But I'd say check your deck for spirits before you pick her up. But even then, you know, the body for the cost is okay, but nothing great. So just kind of so-so in Trials. Next up, Jacory, the Riot Instigator, aka the big angry ogre dude. Damn. So 3 mana, 3 aspect, Raging Dominion. 4/4 with 2 speed. That's a pretty good body, pretty good beat stick. When he enters the field and at the start of your turn, put a target emblem on another creature. And creatures with target emblems get +1/+1 and become slaves. Now, if you remember, slaves cannot attack or block if you have more slaves than you have non-slaves. Jacory can also hit enemy creatures. That's kind of cool. Although, why would you want to do that? Although, if you start hitting enemy lamps or something, that would be amusing, but that's not realistically possible. Anyways, the interesting interaction with this card has to do with the Elf Tracker. Elf Tracker also puts a target emblem on something, and his effect is when he deals damage to a creature with a target emblem, he instantly kills it. Now, that is the same target emblem that Jacory is giving out. So, if you have Jacory on the board, and you play Elf Tracker, the creature that Elf Tracker marks will become a slave. Likewise, if you have a Tracker on the board, and you play Jacory, and you hit something with Jacory's emblem, Elf Tracker can kill it. That's a very fun interaction. And this also tells me they may do more cards with target emblems, which could lead to some rather amusing scenarios on the board. Anyways, all that crap aside, if we just look at the card, looks really good. Body is good. You can basically give a creature +1/+1 when it comes into play. That's pretty good. That's really good. And you can also power up more creatures, although they become slaves, which is bad. And the buffs are not permanent. They are an aura. So as soon as he dies, the buffs go away. I think Jacory might fit best in some kind of a mid-range deck that probably focuses on Dominion, but has Rage as like an extra thing to go into, maybe for Massive Assault or something like that. I don't really know. All in all, I'd say good card. In that kind of deck, big body, immediate impact, and you can keep buffing your other creatures. Yeah, as long as it doesn't get killed, should be really good. I'm curious to see what other kinds of cards we'll find in Rage and Dominion that might support this kind of a deck. Yeah, you can get them on with Kayanu, but I wouldn't really count on it. I mean, you'd have to run 3 aspects just to do that. Don't do that. Anyways, oh, and Trials, it should be really good. If you get him, it should be pretty good. If you have those aspects, of course. And the last one, my favorite, by the way, by far my favorite, Azorius, the Burning Agony. 4 mana. Oh, by the way, I'm pretty sure she's Succubus's sister. Or she is a Succubus, who knows. I'm pretty sure those two know each other. 4 aspect, 4 mana, I mean. 1 red, corruption, blah, blah, blah. 4/3, flying swift. Oh, yeah. When she deals damage in the form of decaying cards. We've seen this mechanic on the Corruption Incarnate, that, when he hits the face, he mills the cards instead. She does the same thing, but whenever the enemy hero decays cards, you select one of those cards, and then she deals damage equal to the mana cost of that card to an enemy creature or hero. That's pretty good. Oh, and she's a demon, by the way. Just thought I'd point that out. She's a demon. Now, that said, as far as demons go, I don't think Portal demons would like her so much. Yes, you can search her out instead of Succubus, but I'm not sure you would, just because she doesn't hit the face directly, and you have to go into Rage, and that means Consume Spirit gets worse. That means Word of Pain gets worse. It would be like a different demon deck if you're going to run it. You do have access to Artifact Destruction, but I don't think so. I think where she belongs is a mill deck. A mill/reanimate, because the effect says whenever the enemy hero mills, that could be with Vulture, that could be with, the Incarnate itself, Deathbound Incarnate. It could be with, there's actually another card coming up that has that same ability. It could be with, the Mill 5 draw card. Forgot what it's called right now. Yeah, anytime that happens, you get to pick one of those cards and burn an enemy creature or burn the face. Seems really good. And she's swift. She is swift on top of all this. You drop her, you immediately hit the face. Or you kill something. 4/3 is a pretty good stat line. So I think she's ridiculously good. And could be paving the way to some kind of a mill reanimate deck with some rage in it for good measure. Oh god, she just looks so happy too. Anywho, I think the card is amazing. And I know I overhyped Bezarok like crazy. I still think Bezarok is good, but maybe he's not the the godsend that I thought he was. In Trials, it should also be pretty ridiculous if you get this, by the way. Anywho, that's it for the multicolor cards. Again, every streamer got those. I mean, every one of the 6 guys got these cards. Now we move on to the actual corruption cards that only I have because I have such a cool hat and stuff. I hope you are ready because we are taking off. We're going to start things off with some shamans and totems. Death Curse Shaman. 2 mana, 1 aspect, a 1/1 with 2 speed. When he dies, you can choose. Either an enemy creature gets -1/-1/-1, or the enemy hero loses 2 life. Now, you will probably want the first option, just to help control the board. One of the issues that shamans have in general is early game. And this guy is actually really, really good, because you can trade with a goblin and then kill another goblin. And unlike Baseborn Recruit, Fiat doesn't free kill him. So I think he's actually really solid and good enough to help shamans hold the early game. Now the question is, are shamans even going to go into corruption? Right? Well, the answer is maybe, because there's a couple totems coming up as well, and another shaman. So we also have Herald of Despair. Now again, Herald is kind of a terrible shaman because his effect does nothing for shamans. Yes, it can be used to destroy artifacts, but you have to destroy your own totems, which sucks. So you're not going to run Herald. No, you're not going to run Herald. But you might run this guy. So whether or not he sees play is contingent entirely on whether or not that deck is good. But I'm glad that we're going to see a different variant of shamans. Shamans, they're going to still run Rage because the Lightning Totem and the Legends Totem are just too strong. You have to use those. But now, maybe instead of Nature, which offered you Kayano, and those other that other totem in the Shaman, which weren't too great, you now have Corruption. Yeah, seems like it could be good. Next up, we've got the other Shaman, the Swamp God Emissary. 3 mana, 1 aspect, 3/2, 2 speed, kind of a crappy stat line, but okay. When he enters the field, you may pay 2 mana, and if you do, return a 1 health creature from your grave onto the field. The effect is actually pretty good because, well, the guy we just covered is a 1 health creature. You know what else is a 1 health creature? Offering Yard Priest. That guy that gets +1/+1 for every totem engraven on the board. You can play this guy and resurrect Offering Yard Priest. Good times. Obviously, this is good because it gives you double shaman triggers, which is good. You can play him on curve as well, right after the other guy. Yeah, seems good. The again, the stat line for the cost is kind of crappy. It's a little bit crappy, but it's survivable. If it was a 2/3, it'd be really good, but oh well. Anyways, that being said, I don't think you run 4 of this really. Yeah, I think you run 3, maybe 2, and use them as kind of a little bit later on, where you can actually pay the 2 mana and get another shaman. You basically get 2 shamans with him. You get 2 triggers on your totems, which is really good, I think. So, yeah, I think Swamp God Emissary deserves a spot in that Corruption Rage totem deck if it ever comes about. Next up, Totem of Tortures. The first of the totems. The first of 2. 1 mana, 1 aspect gives you a turn 1 play. 3 energy. When a shaman enters the field, pay 1, and if you do, you steal 1 life. Seems like a tame effect, but it's actually kind of useful. Because, again, early game is a problem for shamans, and the Totem of Tortures helps out a little bit. It basically is going to end up stealing a total of 3 life over the course of, 3 turns. So it's kind of like a really good word of pain, kind of early on. Mostly for the early game, because it's otherwise not that strong. So whether or not it's worth running will kind of depend. You might just ignore it altogether and go for something else, because the effect while nice, you generally want something a little bit more decisive than that. But hey, shamans have healing now. That's cool. Totem of Forsaken Thoughts. Wow, this is some awesome art. Anyways, 2 mana, 2 aspect, 3 energy, standard thing. When an allied shaman enters on the field, you pay the 1 energy and you look at the top 4, and then you can put a corruption spell into your hand and the rest in your graveyard. So that's pretty interesting. So the look at the top 4 and add a spell is kind of like draw a card. It's very similar. As a corruption deck, you're going to run a lot of spells. Noxious, Consume are staples. Word of Pain, probably. Reanimate could be another one. So most of the time, you're going to draw a card. Most of the time, you're going to draw a card. The other effect is you get to kind of mill yourself, which could be good. If you mill yourself, Reanimate gains targets. That Swamp Emissary gets targets. I think for a corruption shaman deck, this is a good addition. And it should work pretty well for them alongside Legends Totem for a card advantage. We'll have to see exactly how good it is, but I am definitely looking forward to trying this out. See if the black-red totems and shamans can really work out. Yeah, it looks good. Oh, by the way, for all of these in Trials, they're mostly bad. Except, okay, this guy is okay in Trials. It's not too bad, but the others, you don't want to pick those. Okay, this card is like semi-passable. You don't want to pick the totems. You maybe could pick these two. Maybe. Anyways, moving on. Thought Devourer. It's another demon. 2 mana, 2 aspect, 3/2 flying. It's another 3/2. It's like they're trying to introduce new stat lines, which is good. Deals damage in the form of decaying cards, just like the other demon, just like the Corruption Incarnate. Whenever he deals damage to a hero, you put a Might emblem on him. So if he hits the face, he grows. That's kind of cool. Very similar to the Deathbound Incarnate, although it's a lot slower. It doesn't grow as quickly, obviously, but it starts out with decent stats already and is flying. That's important. Hits, you mill for 3, he gets a little bit bigger. It's more support for the milling shenanigans, and again, more support for the Lady Succubus. What was her name? Hang on, I forgot her name for a second. Azuris. Yes, it's more support for Azuris, who now has, another way to activate her effect. So, in that kind of deck, I think this card is reasonably good. Now, what about Demon Portals? Would they run a card like this? Probably not. Because it doesn't do anything for demons. The whole milling thing it's not something demons want to do, even though Nightbringer also mills. But you don't play Nightbringer because it mills. You play Nightbringer because it goes 0 mana with Portal. That's the reason you play it. Thought Devourer is a different story. But it's interesting that it's another demon that has milling. That's 4 demons now that have milling. With this, Vulture, Nightbringer, and Azuris. Could you play Mill Portal? It seems like you would kill yourself first before you milled your opponent. So I don't actually think so. But I'm sure some enterprising deck builder is going to try it. Like me. I'm an enterprising deck builder. I'm always up for getting completely wrecked with ridiculous decks. I'm just going to leave this up. So, yeah, it might work out. I think it's decent enough. Again, 3/2 stat line kind of sucks, but because he's flying, you're not going to have to worry about him getting killed by a goblin or something. So, I think it's okay. In Trials, it's reasonable. Sudden Death. Oh, yeah. An instant spell for corruption. Destroy a creature with HP less than its base HP. Less than its base HP. So, what this is kind of like Execute, right, from Hearthstone. If a creature has been wounded or weakened, bam, it's dead. Now, the only time it doesn't work is if the creature has been buffed by, like, Overcharger, and then it's wounded. It doesn't work because it has to be less than its base HP. So, obviously, it's hard removal for 2 mana. That's instant. That's really good. The only problem is you have to combine it with something like Plague Vermin. That said, there is a card coming up really soon that will work very well with Sudden Death that I think is going to make this card probably playable. Because the thing about corruption removal is that it's very efficient against small creatures. Whereas this can kill big creatures, which is good. That said, you're not going to run 4 sudden deaths because it's not flexible enough. You can't just use it at any time. You might run like 2, maybe 3, but probably 2 as just like extra hard removal to be used with something like Plague Vermin. Perhaps if you're running Dominion as well, combine with Mutant or Cathedral. Yeah, could be good. I think it's a reasonable enough card to use. In Trials, it's probably good because it's removal, but only if you have some way to activate it. I guess worst case scenario is you can just attack a big creature with a small creature and then sudden death it if you have to. If you don't have any better removal, you know, it doesn't hurt to draft more. So, yeah, I think sudden death is okay. Next up, Shrieking Banshee. 3 mana, 2 aspect, 2/2 flying with 2 speed. When she enters the field, summon an enchained soul onto the field for every creature that died this turn. So, what exactly is an enchained soul? Well, it is this card. It is a 1 mana, 1 aspect, 1/1 flying slave with 3 speed. I guess it's kind of good. It's kind of like Nightbringer with an extra speed, which is good. Great for Consume Spirit plays, by the way. But it's a slave. Interesting. So you summon a bunch of these. Okay. So let's say you know 4 creatures die. You trade it off the board. You play this, you get 4 of those Enchained Souls. But they're all slaves, so they can't do anything. So what is the idea? Well, actually, we're gonna get to that in a little bit. But what this is making me think of is Stronghold Metropolis. You just use the souls to sacrifice, and you draw cards. Yeah, that's it. That's all they're gonna do for you, and that's not bad. I mean, once they're able to attack, they're probably gonna be pretty good. They're flying, and they have 3 speed. That's pretty good. I mean, realistically, if they weren't slaves, that'd probably be overpowered, right? I mean, it's like a Disquisitive Spear that doesn't draw. That you summon a whole bunch of them. So, yeah. It would probably be overpowered if they weren't slaves. Anyways, I still think the card is good. I mean, you summon a bunch of dudes on the board, and even though they can't do anything immediately, you could sack them. You could combine it with Devious Plot. It's giving Corruption a way to just spam the board for Dominion to, you know, come in and take advantage of that. So, yeah, I like the card. I think it's good. It is a spirit. Hey, maybe Melinda will want to get this out. I'm not really holding my breath. You could get it out with Grand Reunion. Again, not holding my breath. But more likely you're going to play it in that kind of a Dominion Corruption deck that uses, you know, Devious Plot and Stronghold for value and removal. And then, you know, and then there's one more important card that's going to make this make sense. And it's coming up right now. Reign of the Underworld. Now, it looks like it's 3 aspects, but if you look at the positioning, we can probably assume that it's 4. 4 aspect, 3 mana. It's a Grand Reunion, right? And Chained Souls are no longer slaves. Ah, there you go. All other creatures become slaves. That's actually hilarious. And then every slave has the ability to sacrifice itself and then summon an Enchained Soul in its place. So this card is fascinating because when it hits the board, you can no longer be attacked because all of your opponent's crap is slaves. They cannot attack you, which is amazing. It means Vamp Lamp cannot kill you, right? Because they only run like a couple of creatures. They have lamps and like a handful of other creatures. But if the lamps are slaves, they're never going to attack. And if your opponent plays, you know, his Enchained Souls, you just kill them. This card looks really, really fun. So, obviously, once you've summoned a bunch of Enchained Souls, you play this, and they just all start swinging face, right? That's really nice. Combined with Enoch? Maybe? It seems a bit specific, but it looks fun. I think the card is strong, just because it literally stops your opponent dead in his tracks. Like, he can't do anything when you play this. He has to destroy it. And this can only reliably be destroyed by Unicorn. Oh, I guess Test of Time. And Ray of Righteousness. Unfortunately, Landslide can just get rid of it. whatever, landslide, right? But other than that, if you're not playing against nature, they're going to struggle with this. And that's really cool. I think this card is really interesting. Now, you kind of have to build around it. Do you even have to build around it? The idea is you play this card and your opponent cannot attack you anymore. You can then proceed to drain him. And if you have a lot of Enchained Souls because you played your Shrieking Banshees, you just go to town on his face. Because he cannot attack you and he cannot block anything. I'm interested to see what this card is capable of. I'm not going to call it great or anything, but I think it has good potential. Just by itself, it has good potential. Although, that said, if you have no support for it, if you have no way to summon Enchained Souls, or if you don't run Enchained Souls, it's probably not that good. It kind of equalizes the game in a way that nobody can do anything. So, you have to build around this card. Because of that, I think in Trials it's probably not worth picking. Especially it's an epic. You're probably going to want to pick Bezorok instead or something. Not this. But hey, cool card. Mausoleum of the Damned. This is that skill shrine I was talking about that makes sudden death look a lot better. 2 aspect, 1 mana, 3 cooldown. Next time you play a level 1 creature this turn, an enemy creature gets -1 attack, health, and speed this turn. So you play a level 1 creature with this, you can basically, it's like you cast a Plague Vermin on something for free. Pretty good, and then you can sudden death it. Nice. I mean, this almost looks like it makes basic Nepharos obsolete, because you're also giving it -1/-1. It's more removal. And you have to play a level 1 creature, but that's not a problem. As you'll see, there's actually quite a few level 1 creatures that Corruption is getting that are quite good. So I think this card is very good. You just play it in your Mono Corruption, I don't know what you want to call it, beatdown deck, I guess? Just Mono Corruption, beat their face. Yeah. Yeah, I think this could be quite good. And in Trials, you probably have level 1 stuff. Should also be really good. Hero power. Yeah, pretty good. Haunt. Attached to an enemy card. Wait, this is an action? It says it's an action, but you're attaching it to an enemy card. I assume it's a typo, right? And it's a curse or something. Anyways, whenever this card, that means the card it's attached to, engages in combat, triggers, or uses activated abilities. In other words, if it does anything, you summon an Enchained Soul on the field. So more synergy with that Enchained Soul shenanigans. I think that's kind of cool. You kind of use it to just lock down a creature, or just lock down something. Since if it tries to do anything, you just get a soul. And you can use it on other things. You can use it on artifacts. You can use it on spells. You can use it on Electrostatic Storm. That said, I'm not actually sure if this card is good enough to play. Because it costs 2 mana, and I think it should cost 1. And you don't immediately get anything. And, you know, you might get a soul a little bit later. I mean, if you use it on an enemy creature and that creature attacks, you get a soul, which could then block, right? I guess it's okay. Might be too slow. I'm not sure about that. So I'll hold my judgment. I'll definitely try it out. But at a glance, it doesn't look that good, but it doesn't look bad either. I don't know. We'll have to see about this one. In Trials, so-so. Your opponent could just not attack with that creature. In that case, it's just removal, I guess. Yeah, it's okay in Trials. Enchained Soul, again. Now, speaking of the Enchained Soul itself, it's a card, just like Silverfang's a card. Would you actually run it? Right? That's an interesting question. Would you run this card? It's another 1-drop for Corruption. It's a fair 1-drop. It's a 1/1 with 3 speed and flying. It doesn't hit face for 2. I approve. But it can't attack. Now, usually your 2-drop is going to be not a slave. So, Enchained Soul could probably trade with something. And it's probably really good for consume shenanigans, because as a flyer with 3 speed, it's very sticky. It's not going to be easy for your opponent to remove this. And it's one of the reasons that the Infected Survivor is so good, is because it is one of the few 3-speed creatures, and it sets up that consume shenanigans. So, I think Enchained Soul might even just be played. Maybe. So now you have 3 1-drops for Corruption. This, the Plague Vermin, and the Zombie Legionnaire. So, it'll be interesting to see. But I think the aggressive decks will probably prefer to run Zombie Legionnaire anyways, because it does more damage. but we'll have to see. I think it's okay. I think it's a perfectly reasonable 1-drop. And I'm glad we're getting reasonable 1-drops. Hooray. In Trials, it's fine. Duke Hartford. This is probably my favorite corruption card revealed. Even more so than Bezarok. And possibly the most powerful as well. So it's a 4 mana, 1 aspect. What is with this 1 aspect stuff? Like, Eleanor had the same thing. Anywho, it's a ghoul body, 3/4 with 2 speed. When he enters the field, get a load of this. You can return up to X zombies, where X is the number of, it's your corruption level, from the graveyard onto the field with a weakness emblem. Up to your corruption level? Oh, wow. That's terrifying. Okay, so, back on track. If a creature with a weakness emblem dies, it goes to the bottom of its owner's deck. Okay, so you can put them back. It's actually really funny because the Duke Hartford's, he's mentioned in the Zombie Legionnaire flavor text where it says he doesn't like to waste anything. Hey, he puts stuff back in your graveyard, back in your deck. If you have 3 aspects, when he dies, you may pay 4 life and return him to the field with a weakness emblem. Holy crap, so let's get this straight. You play him, you at least get 1 zombie back. If you have multiple aspects, you get multiple zombies back on the board. Now, you know some things that are zombies? Necromantic Cult is a zombie. Undead Hydra is a zombie. Zombie Giant is a zombie. The actual ghoul, Insatiable Ghoul, is a zombie. Yeah. Zombie Necromancer is a zombie. All good targets. Now, yes, they come back with a weakness emblem. But, man, I mean, a Hydra, even with a weakness emblem, is pretty good. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to want to run these kinds of cards, but the effect of this card seems ridiculously powerful. For just 1 more mana than Ghoul, you play this guy, and you get a freebie on the board. At least 1 zombie. Presumably you have 1 in the graveyard. And if you have 3 aspects, then when he dies, he comes back, and he brings a bunch of zombies on the board with him. What? So this card looks absolutely insane. Like Wolfbroke level insane. Maybe even more ridiculous. You make a zombie deck. You probably have a little bit of mill, so that you can mill some of the less efficient zombies like Undead Hydra. Drop Hartford and get like a bunch of zombies. I mean, if you summon 2 Undead Hydras with this, that's completely insane. And later on, he's a completely ridiculous top deck. You play him, you get 3 zombies on the board, and if he dies, if you get Cataclysm, he comes back and resummons 3 more zombies. Wow. That looks absolutely insane, by the way. I guess him costing 1 aspect is so that you can harpy him. But who cares? This might actually make him better because you could play him earlier, and even getting like 1 or 2 extra zombies could be a really big deal. Like Necromantic Cult is one that you can get. Oh god. So I think the card is completely insane. Possibly even more so than a Wolf Tongue. I think this card will easily find its way into Masters. Just because, I mean, my god. The value of this card is completely ridiculous. Really, really powerful. In Trials, of course, this card is going to be God tier. As long as you have a decent number of zombies. Which you probably will. But if you don't, then it's less good, obviously. But, I mean, still, you pick up one of these, you have a couple zombies kicking around. You know, even cards like Undead Hydra are not awful picks. You can bring them right back. And then later on, he can just keep coming back. Now, you have to pay 4 life, but still. Now, I think he's not as good in Trials as he will be in Constructed, but still really, really good. Okay, maybe God tier is an exaggeration. But should be really good if you have a decent number of zombies. Next up, Abhorrent Ghoul. So this is Zombie Legionnaire who's picked up a weapon and learned some combat tricks. 2 mana, 1 aspect, 3/3 with 1 speed. Whenever he attacks, you lose 1 life. That's not really that relevant. Maybe a little bit. Anyways, it's a bigger Zombie Legionnaire. That's quite significant. A 3/3 on turn 2 is no joke. It may have 1 speed, but because it's so big, it's not going to die as easily to something like a Grove Guardian. It's not going to die to just 1 Goblin. And it's going to hit the face for 3. Now, you take 1 damage too, but you probably are playing very aggressively if you run this card. This card is another 2-drop you can run instead of Rotting Remains, which I think is good, because the problem with Rotting Remains is that its effect makes it only trade with a goblin, which is really terrible, whereas this guy could kill them. He may have to pay 1 life, but hey, I think that's fine. Probably just go face anyways. So should be pretty good in a Mono Corruption just beatdown deck that already isn't even that bad, just because of how ridiculous Consume Spirit is. Yeah, should be pretty good there. You have Word of Pain to heal up if you need to, so it's not a big deal. And it's a zombie to bring back with Hartford. Yeah, I expect this card should be good. In Trials, it's solid, I guess. If you get it on turn 2, it's pretty decent. Mostly if you're drafting pretty aggressively, but it's a 3/3, which means it's not likely to die for free. Yeah. And now we move on to what I think is the strongest card besides Hartford, and possibly my favorite, the Underworld Scourge. 4 mana, 2 aspect, 4/2 unstoppable. Some really weird stat lines. So, when it enters the field, you can destroy a creature or artifact that costs 2 or less. You know what creatures cost 2 or less? Namir, Cavalier Field, Captain, all the Incarnates, well, except the big ones. Yeah. You know what artifacts? Reflector, Obelisk of Unity, Dark Portal, and it's a demon. Oh, it's a demon! It's a demon that can destroy Portal? I didn't even notice it was a demon when I was going over it the first time. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so let's finish the card. If you have 4 aspects, he gets +2/+2, so it's a 6/4 with Unstoppable. That's no joke. You thought Bedeviled Fiend hits face hard? This guy shows you how it's done. The effect is obviously ridiculous. You can destroy a lot of things with him, and you can hit artifacts. And it's a demon. You can search this out with Portal and then use it to either blow up Portal, but more likely you're gonna blow up one of your opponent's creatures. So is this card gonna fit into demons? Hell yeah. And here's why. The way a demon player usually goes is turn 1, ideally Zombie Legionnaire or something, right? Maybe Enchained Soul. Turn 2, Portal. If you're lucky, you get a Nightbringer. Turn 3, usually you play one of your 2 mana 3 cards, Bedeviled or Harpy, and you search out a Nightbringer. The next turn, you could search out this and play it on the curve on turn 4 and destroy an enemy card with a 4/2 Unstoppable on the board. That's tremendously powerful. With 2 mana or less, you have a wide variety of targets in almost any deck, I guess except Vamp Lamp. But at worst, you can just use him to destroy Portal. It's a demon that you can search out to blow up Portal. That I cannot overstate how valuable that is. You can do away with that crappy Herald that you have to draw, that is trash most of the time, and run this card, which is ridiculously good by itself. You know, late game, it's a 6/4. That's a huge threat. Makes Hydra look like trash, honestly. That's because it is. And, you know, it has an instant removal effect as well. Oh my goodness. And you can destroy Reflector with it. It's like, you have a lot of things you can do. You cannot hit Helm, unfortunately. Well, that'd be probably retarded if you could hit Helm. But I think the card is absolutely ridiculous. Amazing. And it's going to be played for sure, because I'm going to play it in a demon deck, because I think it's incredible. Not 4 copies, though. You probably don't need to run 4 copies, but at least 3. I think this card deserves to be run for sure. And even without Portal, it's just a good value creature. Like, yeah, the stat line kind of sucks, but you destroy something for free. And late game, it's a 6/4 that comes in and destroys something for free. And if you destroy something, you can reanimate it. Or use the Eternal Servitude. Not that anybody's going to, but hey, you could. So yeah, yet easily the strongest card revealed, along with Hartford. Possibly even better. I'm amazed at how powerful of a card they made that is also a demon. I mean, this card could take demons to the next level by itself. It's truly astonishing. In Trials, it's absolutely insane. Curse of Risha. Now, speaking of some of the most insane cards. Now we're gonna turn it around and discuss the 2 worst cards that were revealed, unfortunately. Cursive Risha being one of them. 2 mana, 1 aspect. When it enters the field, you draw a card. That's cool. Whenever the enemy hero plays a spell, they lose 1 life. What? Wait, what? That doesn't do anything. How many spells is your opponent going to play that it's going to matter? This card looks really bad. I'm not going to lie. It looks really bad. It's nice that it redraws, but the effect is just almost completely insignificant. I mean, the average deck plays a handful of spells maybe, right? So what are they going to lose, like 4 life eventually? You don't really want to play this on turn 2. And I mean, even if you're going to play like a control deck, the most this will ever do is like prevent them from playing too many spells eventually. Yeah, that's not going to fly. This card looks terrible. It's not going to see any play anywhere. And in Trials, I think it's completely useless in Trials. Like, literally, 2 mana redraw. Yeah, no, this card's terrible. And the last card, which looks good, but isn't, Spoils of War. By the way, this art is exactly the art you see when you lose a game. With the big battlefield and the, I don't know, it looks like a Reaper of some kind. Anywho, 2 mana, 2 aspect card. Action spell. If 3 or more enemy creatures died this turn, you choose 1. Choice 1. Draw 3 cards. That's amazing. Summon 3 Enchained Souls. That's so-so. Gain 3 life. What? So, here's my... I have 2 really big issues with this card. Number 1, the 3 effects are... the difference is insane. Draw 3 cards is so much better than the other effects. I mean, gaining 3 life and drawing 3 cards. What would you rather do? This should be gain like 6 life at least. Not even kidding. Summon 3 Enchained Souls isn't terrible, but if you remember, Enchained Souls are slaves. So, they're not going to do that much. This card reads, if 3 or more enemy creatures died this turn, draw 3 cards. That's it. The other effects are very minor. Like, you might occasionally need the life, but no. Draw 3 cards. The problem is, 3 enemy creatures have to die in 1 turn for you to be able to use it. That's a tall order, honestly. That's not going to happen a lot. I mean, draw 3 cards for 2 mana is ridiculous, but a lot of the time it's going to draw 0 cards because you won't be able to play it. And that sucks. Arcane Intellect draws you 2 cards. I'm sorry, Ancient Wisdom. I keep forgetting these names. The Wisdom draw 2 for 2 mana is only a little bit worse, but always works, whereas this doesn't. So I appreciate the effort to give Corruption card draw, but this is just not going to work. I think the effect is just way too difficult to pull off. It's very rare that you could actually, that your opponent will even have 3 creatures and that you can actually kill them all in 1 turn. That's only going to happen when you have a board and they have a board and you trade the boards. But, yeah, no, I think for this card to be even remotely decent, the condition would have to be either just 2 enemy creatures, and then it's like so-so, but kind of doable, or more likely when any 3 creatures die. When any 3 creatures die, that includes your own, then you can play it. Then you could at least do some shenanigans like Plague Vermin, right? You could play a Plague Vermin, you know, kill something, and then help you trade, and then you probably could get like 3 kills this way. But if it's 3 enemy creatures, that's not gonna happen. That's just way too difficult to pull off, way too inconsistent. And while drawing 3 cards is obviously really powerful, no, it's not gonna work out. In Trials, it's not gonna work out. I kind of hope they change this card because I like the idea. I really like the idea, but the condition is too difficult for a small reward. Draw 3 is nice, but it's not like game winning or anything like that. It just lets you keep going. But if you manage to pull off something, maybe if this card said do all of those things, like do all of it, you draw 3, gain 3 life, and you summon 3 souls. Yeah, I could get behind that. I think that'd be really powerful because then you get this difficult condition to pull up, but you get a huge reward for it. But only one? No, it's not gonna happen. This card has no chance to be played. Sorry. Oh well. Anyways, that's it for my portion of the reveals. I hope you enjoyed. I'm pretty excited. Almost all the cards are interesting except those last two. And Eternal Servitude is a little bit iffy, not gonna lie. Anyways, expansions in 3 days from when I'm recording this. It may be 2 days when you watch it. Save those packs, get those cards, wait for the other spoilers, or if not, just wait for the reveals. I'll be doing a full set review by the end of the week. Sometime by the end of this week, I'll have a full set review for all the aspects once I've seen all the cards, and I'll try to figure out some way to grade them. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you guys next time.